Well, hello, Linkies. How are we? It's Friday, my favorite day of the week, and we have Ray Brown with me today. Which way are you? You that way? Is
I'm
that right?
on
Or
my
that way?
right. I'm here.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
on my right as well, that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it flips, I don't know. Anyway, right. Ray, could you give us an introduction? I've been telling everyone about you,
Well,
week
there you
in,
go.
week out. How about
Um,
tell us about yourself?
I'm Scottish, so although I live in Australia in Melbourne, the long business career in Scotland, built some businesses, ran some businesses for other people. And then a friend of mine bought a coffee vending business and he said, I've got 6 water coolers and I think there's going to be money in water. And I said to him,
Oh,
I can't see it. There's nothing wrong with the water that comes out with the tap. Who's going to go and buy water from a fridge? Fortunately, he convinced me to join him in the business, and we built quite a successful water cooler business in Scotland. Sold that, came to Australia with my family, and almost 20 years ago now. Bought the yacht, as you've got to do when you sell a business, and became a business coach. So I've been a business coach for 20 years, doing all sorts of businesses. And then
yeah.
7 years ago, I decided to focus on architects. I had some architect clients and they seemed like nice people. They seemed to acknowledge that they had a problem, that they didn't know very much about business,
Yeah.
and they were willing. I thought that at the time they were willing to learn. Over the 7 years, I've found it a little bit harder than I thought. But we have a business called ArchiBiz, and we have effectively 2 sides to the business. We have a consultancy business where we work with practices all over the world and just help them on the business side on a retained basis, month on month. And then online, we've got a school community. We've got what we call the Business School for Architects.
Yeah.
And that community is really very active. We provide a lot of information in there. And then we've got a sort of flagship program that we call the Fast Track MBA, Master of Business for Architects. And that just teaches people the basics of business. And that's really what we feel people need. If you're going to run a business, it's a bit like driving a car. You wouldn't drive a car without some lessons.
No.
And yet people jump into business. And after a few years, they find it a little bit more difficult than they thought. And
Yeah.
hopefully that's when they reach out and get some help
Yeah.
from us or other people in the market.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know how Ray and I met, it's through LinkedIn. And this is why I
Yep.
keep encouraging everyone to comment and get involved on LinkedIn because you meet amazing people.
Yeah,
And
it's
yeah,
sorry.
sorry. No,
I
no,
was
no,
just
go
going
ahead.
to say, no, it's LinkedIn's an amazing resource because if people connect with you, they're giving you the opportunity to reach out to them. You know a lot about them, and it means you never need to do another cold call. That's what I tell people. If you use
Exactly.
LinkedIn, you know who they are, you know why you're calling, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a fantastic resource.
Yeah. So do we have anyone online today? Can you please message? Actually, I haven't had a notification say that we are online. Let me just double check just before we
Yep.
go any further and start waffling on. And I don't want another occasion where I'm sat here for 35 minutes. We're waffling to ourselves. So let me just quickly check. Yeah, because I normally get a notification on my phone. Okay, it's done this weird thing again. We are duplicated on LinkedIn, but we are live.
We
Thank
are
goodness.
live. Okay,
We
that's
are
good to
live.
know. I've got a sign at the top. It says it only says 4 minutes, mind you. So
Yeah,
maybe it
four
is
minutes.
only 4 minutes. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, sometimes it happens like this, like and I think this is the thing, this is why I wanted to do these LinkedIn Lives again. I think architects have a habit of not really getting themselves out there. They kind of watch everything and read everything, and they don't get involved. What is
yeah.
your advice on this?
Oh, just get involved. I think people can only buy what they're aware of. That's the first thing. That if people aren't aware of you and where you fit in the market and what you do, and principally the problems that you solve better than anybody else, then they're not going to reach out to you to um, do their do their job, do their project, solve their problem.
Yeah.
And we say to people that clients for architectural services buy two things. They buy confidence and they buy perceived value. Those are the
Yeah.
two big things. And you got to convince people of the simple words to say, but unless you're out there and you've got some personality, I mean, I think that's the problem with architecture a lot of the time. All the websites look the same,
Yeah.
architects sound and speak the same, and it's almost as if they're speaking to other architects and not the market. So
Yeah.
we spend, that's
It's a
the
copy and
key.
paste, isn't it? It's just like you see, and how are you supposed to choose anyone within that if you all look the same, you're all saying the same, the imagery is the same.
Yeah, and the key is that we tell architects all the time, you are not the client.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, you can't afford to buy the houses that you're designing, perhaps. So you've got to think differently. These people that you're trying to attract, they look for different things. They're not looking for just the design, and design is really important to architects, but it's just one of the factors when it comes to a client choosing whether to use an architect in the first instance, and then
Yeah.
choosing which architect to use is quite a complex process for a lot of people.
So we've touched upon, I was hoping that Mohammed, and I'm sure he'll like tune in at some point. I did mention this before we went live.
Yes.
But we've been talking about value and the wording to use, how to sell yourself. So as we've like touched upon it, maybe you could give us a bit of insight into, what you see and how do they communicate value?
Yeah, well, I was telling you, Taylor, before we came on the call that when we started our business, we wanted to do what we advocate other people, get to know your clients, get to know their problems. So we got some architects together and we prepared a list of questions. And the first question that we asked the group, 10 architects, was, what is the value of architecture? And we were
Yes.
thrown out the restaurant at 10:30 and we hadn't got past that one question because it was just a big debate amongst themselves as to how do you define the value of architecture? And I think for me,
Hello.
it comes back, and the longer I do this, the more convinced I am that architects need to change their focus from the outcome, which is a design and a building and a picture of a building.
Yeah.
That's the end of the story. Your clients are not there. They may want that, but they're back at the beginning worrying about cost and time.
Yeah.
And whether you're capable of delivering. They're worried about risk. They're worried about money. So our sort of encouragement to architects is to focus on the problem. And every client will have a different set of problems. So don't assume that all the clients are the same and that the value in solving one client's problems will be the same as the next client. So you need to do the fact finding and what we call the feel finding, get to the emotion, what's really driving the decision to engage an architect. And the value comes from, there's a really, I don't know how you describe it, but there's a saying, I just call it a saying that says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah. And
Yes.
that's the key in selling, is to ask the questions, ask the supplementary questions, and don't go too quickly to a solution. Because you may think, well, I've seen this problem before, I know how to solve this problem, but you're actually denying the client the process of someone
Exactly.
listening to their problem, digging into their problem, maybe getting them some insights that they don't have at the moment just by speaking about the problem. And I think when the architect and the client work together on the problem, that's when you get the real value and the magic happening.
Yeah, for sure. So, going back to this, my internet went a bit funny. I didn't know if it was your side or my side. But going
Yeah.
back to this, like, when you were in the restaurant with all these architects, were there any kind of, did they repeat the same thing, or did they, how did they answer
It's
it?
it's a great question. I think architects, there's a limited number of things that you can get value from, and the architects spend a lot of money on photographs and the finished the finished article, and their website is full of those things. And so there's a lot of discussion about the quality of design and how that design is presented, and everything about the project. They actually speak a lot about the project and not so much about the client. Okay, and the number of architecture websites that I've seen that have no people. You're lucky if you can find the studio team somewhere on the website. So that value thing, I think it's a very confused conversation for architects as an industry. And I think each individual architectural practice has got to find its own niche and its own value and its own personality to describe that value. And I think it is hard to say, architecture as a whole, this is the value. Okay, and maybe that's why the conversation took so long that night in the restaurant. To me, it's about how do you solve the problems of your target market? Okay? And your target market may be slightly different to someone else's. If you're targeting young families or developers or apartment builders, these are all very different categories of people with different priorities. And I think the key is to get the value from the clients. And we when we're speaking to architects, we tell them to ask two very specific questions around value. Question one is, for the client, what criteria are you going to use to choose your architect? And that the client may say, oh, well, I don't know. But there's an assumption by most architects that it's about price and design. But the chances are that some clients will put design and price maybe lower down than you would think. And maybe timescale is really important, or I don't know, relationship with the architect, or all sorts of things. And then the other question that we encourage them to ask in their own words is, what specifically do we need to do to give us the best chance of winning your business?
Right. And okay, that's awesome. That's what we do in recruitment, actually.
Exactly. It's finding a solution that the client is comfortable with and can afford, and that ticks all their boxes, not your boxes, their boxes.
Yeah. And I think that is the key here, isn't it? They find it very difficult to get outside their box and kind of look at it from a different perspective of what the value is. Joy, you touched upon something that you mentioned niche and etc. And certainly when I am talking to architects, etc., and this is like at the high level, like director level, oh, I can do this, I can do that. They want to come across like they do every sector and can do everything. Is that something that you touch upon with your training, and do you see that from your side?
Yeah, definitely. I think people don't want, if they've got a serious problem, you don't want a general practitioner, you want a specialist. Okay? So you may go to the GP to do the initial chat, but yes, you want to be sent to the neurologist for your brain and your whatever else you're doing, orthopedics if you've broken your leg. And I think architects are the same, that all architecture is not the same, and all clients are not the same. And if you don't stand out, and it's not clear who you service, and clear very quickly, you can't make it a difficult task for the client to interact with your business, whether that's through the website or in social media. They've got to very quickly say, this sounds like me. These people sound as if they work with people like me. I feel comfortable with this practice, or I feel comfortable with the work that they're doing, the language that they're using. So I think that is absolutely key. I think there's a real temptation for people when they go into business to do the hands. We can service everybody. We can do this or we can do that. And the example I usually use is the financial planner, that they'll say, well, I've got one lady with $10,000 and I've got somebody with 10 million, and I can do everybody in between. And that just doesn't work, because at one end they get too much service and at the other they don't get enough. Whereas the well-positioned financial planner will say, we work with small businesses with 2 to 3 partners with between 5 and 10 million in their super.
Yeah.
Then we can provide them with a really good service.
Mm.
And I think architects need to do the same. And it takes courage to narrow your market.
Guts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes guts to say, I'm sorry, that's not our sweet spot.
Yeah.
You would be better dealing with someone else and not us. Because if you don't do that, you end up with a whole lot of work that's not a fit for your business. You don't like doing it. You probably don't make money from it. And you're in a relationship working on a project for 2 years that is an absolute pain in the neck.
And you might not enjoy it even. And, that comes back to getting your personality out there and showing who you are so that you attract the right clients in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a 4P model for selling in architecture, and P1 is pre-qualification. You need to, if you're getting, used to get a lot of architects in, we get a lot of tire kickers, people phoning up and they can't afford us and they don't know what we do, blah, 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 and they blame the client for that. But that's poor messaging on their part. If someone's getting as far as phoning you and not knowing who you are and what you do, then you are going to have a lot of calls from people that are not a fit.
Yeah.
So pre-qualification is absolutely key, and you shouldn't have to do a huge amount of that in the leads that are coming in. They should be a fit for your business.
And okay, so how would you advise someone goes about like the earlier stages before they get to the call and potentially wasting their time?
Well, I think that's down to marketing now is a lot easier than it used to be many years ago. You've got so many channels. In the good old days or the bad old days, you put an advert in the local newspaper or the yellow pages, God forbid.
Yeah.
Where now, now if you've got paid advertising, I mean, you can be very specific about who you're targeting, where you're targeting them. But I think social media, building a database of names, I think is really important. Every architect wants the client that says, I want to start next week. I've got this fabulous project and I've got the money, and would you like to do the job? That's 3% of the market. Okay. The next group are the people who are researching. They know they've got a problem and they're now researching and finding out about architects. They may not be ready to start for a year or 2 years. You need to keep in touch with these people. You need to know who they are, send them emails, send them brochures, keep in touch with them. And then you've got the next group, which is the group who are problem aware. They know that you need a bigger house in 2 years' time, or are we going to move or are we going to renovate? They know that the status quo is not acceptable. So you've got to speak to those people too. And if you speak to them about, would you like to hire an architect now, they're going to switch off very quickly because it's not an appropriate message. So it's about building that database of names and knowing who they are and where they are in their journey is really key.
And setting up some sort of workflow so that they can stay in contact with them on a regular basis. Keep your leads warm.
Yeah. Well, we say to architectural practice owners, have you got a CRM, a customer relationship management software? And the answer is invariably no. We don't have, but sometimes your best work comes from previous clients and referrals, and people. That's the other thing. People say, oh, we get a lot of work through word of mouth and referrals.
Yeah.
And then we say to them, okay, so what's your referral process? Well, we answer the phone when the phone rings. That's about it. They don't work. You got to work your connections and keep in touch with them and entertain them and send them good thank you gifts. And a big thing being complete the loop when you do get a lead and a referral and it turns into something. Go back and tell your referral partner what happened and thank them and send them a bottle of wine or take them out to lunch or dinner or something. Don't just take the lead and forget. Basic good manners.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I mentioned this before we came on, but I had a message from someone who is just starting out. She's just starting a business. So what would your advice be to anyone who's starting right at the beginning to get everything in place so that they are prepared for the road ahead?
Well, I think lots of architects, one of the reasons that we decided to work with architects is a high proportion of architects want to own their own business. They may be working for a big firm, but one day I'm going to have my own firm. But the typical route into business is doing some work on the side, working at the weekends, working for your next door neighbor or your uncle. And then that amount of work increases steadily until you say, well, I think I could make as much doing that as I could working for someone else. Okay, so let's open my own architectural practice. What people forget is that when you were working for a firm, there was someone behind the scenes doing the bookkeeping, doing the marketing, doing all the things that brought you the work that you worked on. And when you start your own business, you've got
none of that.
Not only none of that in place. You got to make your own tea and do all those things. And I think the advice is really go into business consciously and with good intent, and get the pieces in place so that you're not, as I said, I think it was you and I spoke earlier about, you wouldn't jump in a car without lessons, or you shouldn't jump into a business without getting some at least basic information about running an architectural practice. And the interesting thing about architecture is it's a very complex product and service. I acknowledge that. I'm not an architect, but I see how much hassle they get in the marketplace. But as a business, it's very simple. You have hours and you've got invoices. And if you convert hours into invoices efficiently, you can make money. Our clients make lots of money, 15 to 20% net profit after they pay themselves a market rate salary. But if you don't know how to read a profit and loss account, if you don't know what a balance sheet is, if you don't know what a cash flow projection is, you are operating your business with one hand tied behind your back. And you will find that we advocate a monthly, what we call a board meeting. Even if you're working on your own, once a month for an hour and a half, you should sit down and go through the numbers, go through the scorecard. It's a game of business, and your financials are your scorecard. Tells you whether you're winning or losing the game of business.
Sure.
And that monthly board meeting, once you've got a few staff and maybe there's 2 or 3 leaders in the business, the board meeting becomes absolutely essential. And you, at the board meeting, you look at financials, operations, sales and marketing, and any projects that you're engaged in to improve your business. Might be a new office or new computers or something new. Well, you need to keep control of that project. And at that once a month meeting, that's the place to do that. And we find that if they do that properly, if they take even 5 small decisions every month, or 5 small changes, that's 60 a year. That will transform most architectural practices.
Yeah. I've got a question, and this is coming from like my dad and how he would run his architectural company. You mentioned keeping track of the hourly rate, etc. And certainly what he would do, he would price out a job, but then he was doing so much work that that price was not right. He'd underestimated how much it was going to cost. So he would work long hours, he would work weekends. It became this kind of sinking feeling in the how much work he's got to do, and it doesn't correspond to the fees that he was charging.
So and I had this conversation with a client. I've been working with a client for 4 years, and we've had repetition of almost exactly that question that you've asked. And although on the surface it seems very simple, hours into money, there's a lot of misconceptions around how to do that's repeated by the profession. This is how you do it. Use charge out rates and all those things. To me, it's quite simple. It's someone comes in with a job. Based on your knowledge and experience, you calculate how many hours you need for that job. So
Yeah.
many of the directors, so many of the graduates, so many of the associates.
Yeah.
You look at the cost of that, those hours, not the charge out rate or anything like that, the cost of the hours. And that
Yes.
gives you a number. So now you've got the number of hours and you've got a cost of those hours. So I would put that aside, and then I would calculate the same hours, but at a charge out rate. What should we be getting in the marketplace? And when you total that up, you go to the client, you look at it and you say, well, that's £40,000 or $40,000. The client's not going to pay that.
Yeah.
Let's go in at $30,000. Okay. So
yes.
as soon as you decide that price, the difference between that calculation you did around cost and the price that you've negotiated,
Gone out the window. Yeah.
well, the margin is there. It's locked in. That's
Yeah.
the margin. And the key is then to manage the hours that you calculated in the beginning. I suspect, don't know for sure, but I suspect that your father did the charge out rate hours, and then cut back the price a bit, so that the hours that he thought he had to do were never going to be enough to do the job.
No.
Okay.
No.
Whereas if you stick to the original hours and you manage to those hours, then you can become progressively more aware of how long things take.
Yeah.
And if you're going to overshoot those actual hours, that's fine. Next time you'll allow a little bit more hours. But if you tie the hours somehow to the fees, that you're always going to be short of hours. And that we find in lots of architectural practices, everybody's overshooting the hours. And you say, well, how did you calculate the hours? Well, we work back from the fee. No, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah. And I think architects always feel like, what's the word? They feel bad about asking for money. It's not in their nature to do the sales, and like, you know, it's like they're almost apologetic, like, oh, you know, okay, I will compromise.
Yeah. And in our sales process, so the first P is pre-qualification. The second P, we used to call it project, and now we call it problem. So it's two parts. It's you tell me all about your problem and go as deep as you can. Tell me, and then I'll tell you about us in relation to that problem, how we would solve it. Okay. And the last question in that piece is, well, you've told me that, and we've told you this. It's looking like this is, and you should be able to do this. You should be able to say, this is sounding like a $40,000 job or £20,000 job. If I send you a proposal for £20,000 or $40,000, whatever it is, how is that going to land with you? And it's what we call a test close. Pointless doing all that fact finding and finding out about the problem and then spending 2 days preparing a proposal only for the client to go, my God, I can't afford that. You got to check that earlier. And then the whole story about how you present the proposal is another P, which is absolutely critical.
Okay. Is that the third P or the fourth P?
That's the third P. So what quite often happens when we ask architects, what's your sales process? Oh, well, we meet the client, we go through the brief, we sit down with the client, we know that, and then we spend a couple of days putting a proposal together with reference sites and pictures and lots of work. And then we say to them, and then what do you do? Oh, well, we email it to the client. Okay. Now that's the biggest mistake. Okay.
Yeah.
The sales process in architecture should be a two meeting process. One meeting to get the brief and find out all the stuff, and a second meeting to present the proposal. Ideally face to face, but it needs to be a presentation document, not a contract document. You know, you contract, you can, but a lot of the proposals I see look more like a legal document than a sales document.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
people just flick to the back and go, my God, that's a lot of money. Whereas if you get them face to face and you're taking them through a proper,
the emotional side of it, and
the emotional side.
Stage. Yeah.
And when you get to the bit when people are excited, you stop there and let them be excited and let them speak about that piece and how good will that be when we've got that extra bedroom or that
feeling.
the feeling. Exactly.
People stuff, it? At the end of the
People
day.
buying an emotional
Exactly.
space, always. You know, what makes them feel good? And as I said earlier on, they buy confidence and perceived value.
Yeah.
Those are emotional states.
Yeah.
They're not logical. They're not technical. It's
No.
just what feels right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think you see this even like in like renovations, like on small scale stuff. If you're doing a renovation to your house or an extension or anything like this, you've got an idea of the costs that you have the fee, yeah, what you want to spend on it. It always goes over,
Yeah.
always. So,
Yeah.
creating that emotional feel, when people start to touch things and feel things and see it come to life, that money, that the budget that you had.
Because if you can afford it, I'm not sure
Yeah.
100% agree with that.
Okay.
Because I think some architects don't take accountability for that piece of the process. If a client comes and says, I've got 500,000 of a budget or $1 million of a budget, I
Mm.
think it's incumbent on the architect to design to that budget and not
Yes.
design something that solves the problem only for the builder to say that's going to cost 50% more than your budget.
Yeah.
You can't blame the builder for that. Your job as an architect
Is
is
to
to
know.
create
Yeah.
and design something that will at least come
Yeah.
close to the client's budget. I think really hear that story over and over again that
Mhm.
we went to an architect and they designed something that was a fabulous design, but we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And that just creates a lot of disappointment and a lot of people not getting what they want.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
mistrust. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so fourth P, what's the fourth P?
Fourth P is please give me the business. Because without begging, I think in any sales situation, it's the one thing that people don't do often enough. They don't ask for the business. They don't explain to the client that, as I said earlier on, the question about what specifically do we need to do to make sure we win this business?
Yeah.
Because we really want to do your project, we're excited by it. But architects don't say that. They leave that sort of, here's your proposal, and then they say to me, when should I follow up? Okay, when should I, and I said, well, you've got to keep control of the sales process. So if you present the proposal face to face and
Yeah.
somebody says, I need to think about it, or
It's a
that's really
document
good, and
sign.
yeah, or it's once you present,
Yeah.
one of the key things in selling is to stop speaking. Okay, do your presentation and then be quiet, because the next thing the client says will tell you where to go next. That sounds
Yeah.
about right, or I can't afford that, or when do we get started, or could you
Yes.
tell me more about this, that, or the next thing? But you've got to ask for the business. You've got to explain to the client that you're really keen to do the work, and you're not one of 3 proposals that they have on a desk that all look very similar.
Yes.
You don't want to be that one of 3. And I know a lot of architects have to deal with tenders and institutional selling, and they say to me, yeah, but it's hard to influence that. I
Mm.
kind of disagree with that as well, because I
Yeah,
think you can
I
get to know
disagree.
the people. What?
I disagree
Sorry.
as well. I've had numerous occasions, like, architects saying to me, they've already decided who they want, but they go out, they tender the project out, but they've already got an idea of who they want to use. But who's to say that they can't swing that? It's
Yeah.
again
Or
the person, how you come
yeah,
across.
how did that other business get into that preferred position? Probably
Yeah.
because they built a relationship and they entertained the people. And I know it's hard now the days to have lunches and things, but there are ways to get to know people and get to know their system and get to know their decision-making process, all of those
Yeah.
things, so that when you do put a tender in, it's fit for purpose. It's not a standard thing that you use for every occasion.
Mm. Okay, so do we have anyone online? I still feel like I can see that we were online on LinkedIn, but I never got a notification like I normally do, which is a bit weird. Let me just triple check. Nope. Okay. So I think, week in, week out, we have a lot of architects who I spoke to you about this before we came live, about maybe we should talk about the process of getting the skills together in order to be in a position to own your own business or move up the ladder in an architectural practice. Because I think quite a lot of people find themselves stuck at a point, and they think that they have to move jobs to get these skills, and that it becomes so complex that they can't see the wood for the trees where they're working, so they're looking at other options. And there are lots of options, and I just think, how about we tackle that from your perspective? That was a big question in the end.
I think there's a massive opportunity for the industry, and I think lots of architectural practices are not particularly well run. So using the business you're in as a role model can be a bit fraught if you're going to start your own business. But if you're in a business and the business feels as if it's well run, I think the key is to show an interest in the business side, not just the architectural side. Okay. And I had this conversation with a architect just this week, and he built a 60-person practice, very successful. And he was speaking to me about vulnerability. And we speak in our fast track MBA program about the transition from technician to leader. And I think that's what we're speaking about here. That what was that?
I had that written down in one of my questions. I actually haven't covered any of my questions yet.
So over time, your need to be a technical thinking person diminishes, and your need to think like a leader and an owner increases.
Yes.
And there are two aspects to that transition. One is the skill set, and the second, probably more important, is the mindset. So the mindset of the technician is very much, I have the answers, you give me the questions, I'll provide the answers. I've been studying this for years, doing this for a long time. You give me the questions, I'll give you the answers.
Yeah.
Once you become a leader, it's much more grey, and there's less black and white. And the key is the questions you ask. What could it look like? What are our options? When do we need to do that? What do you think about this? And I think the vulnerability piece is the bit that technicians find the most difficult, because if I ask a question, if I say I don't know or I need help, that makes me look bad, because I should know and I shouldn't need help. But as a leader or a business owner, you definitely need help. And if you're not asking for help, you're assuming that you know it all. Okay. And if you say I don't know, someone's going to teach you something that they know that you don't. Okay? So in today's fast-moving world, we've all got to be what we call searchers. You've got to be open to new ideas. You've got to be curious. And if you get stuck in this technician mindset of, I don't want to look bad, so therefore I can't ask any questions. I don't want to look stupid, so I don't want to ask for help. That's very constraining. And I think that mindset shift, if I was an associate, I would be looking on the two sides. I'd be looking to what are the skills I need as a leader, and what are the mindset shifts I need to make. Not all the time, because you're still going to be a technician maybe 80% of the time, but 20% of the time, if you want to be a leader, you need to speak and think differently. So I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago with 10 directors around the table. Probably the youngest would have been, I don't know, past 40. Okay. And we were speaking about the culture in the business, and there was some survey done, and there was some criticism of the leadership. And I said to the people around the table, how many people around the table have done any leadership training? And one person put their hand up and said, well, that was like 25 years ago. Okay. Now, I think that's criminal. I think if you're going to be a leader or think you're a leader, learn how to be a leader. I started my business career in South Africa with Bristol Myers, a pharmaceutical company. And that was many, many years ago. But everybody in that business all around the world did the same management leadership program. Okay, so that everybody's on the same page. People said the key thing is to get your vocabulary right. when you're speaking about leadership and responsibility and accountability, what do you actually mean in your business? Okay, and if you don't have a consistency and alignment around that, then you are going to get confusion, and problems are going to arise because people, misconstrue what they've been asked to do, or how much
Yeah.
authority they've got, or all of those things. So learn the basics of business. It's not complex.
And continue to learn.
And continue to learn. Absolutely. Be what do they call it? A beginner's mindset. So you've got to, particularly these days with AI around the corner, and not around the corner, it's here now. But we've all got to learn how to adapt to it. And if we're not going to use it every day, we've got to get people who know how to use it, and we've got to keep up with the developments. It's changing. I think anybody that tells you they know what's happening in AI is probably not somebody to be listened to.
No. I mean, we use it quite a lot, and I use it quite a lot. It gets things wrong all the time. So
of course.
all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so actually we've just covered this. So most architects have never had formal business training.
Yeah.
What are the top 3 business capabilities an architect or interior designer should start developing in the earlier stages of their career?
Okay. Well, top of my list would be what I would call financial astuteness. Okay? So you don't need to be an accountant, you don't need to be a bookkeeper, but you do need to know what a profit and loss is, what a budget is, what a forecast is, and you've got to learn how to use those, because if you imagine playing a game, whether it be tennis or football or anything, without a scoring system, it's just somebody chasing after a ball and hitting it back and forwards. It gets very boring. But most importantly, you don't know whether you're winning or losing. Okay?
Sure.
And you don't know if you make a strategic change, has it got a positive or a negative impact on performance? And if you're just doing it by feeling, feel as if we're efficient, that's no good. So I think number 1 would be financial astuteness. Second would probably be coaching and mentoring. I think is really important, and understanding the distinction between the two. I think you've got to be able to develop other people. You can't do it all yourself. Being a solo architect, there are a lot of solo architects, but it's a tough job, because you're going to be doing $20, $50 an hour work and $200 an hour work, when really you should be doing predominantly $200 an hour work. So you got to bring on people and then coach and mentor them so they can be effective and efficient. I think the other thing would be, we spend a lot of time speaking about vision and what does it look like when we get it right. So everybody's very keen to do the doing. Let's have an action plan and how many people we're going to do this week and next week. But is everybody on the same page as what you're trying to create? And we often find that's not the case, whether that be for the whole business. One director wants to double the size, someone wants to sell, someone wants to consolidate, and they've never really had that conversation. So getting clarity of vision, really important, and then setting goals that are consistent with that vision. It's amazing what you can achieve if you get everybody pulling on the same rope and aligned around what the destination is on the journey.
Yeah, sure. I had a thought then of a question on the, but it's come into my head and pop back out again. It's one of those.
I thought it was only me that did that.
No, I do it all the time, and I do it on live feed all the time as well. I think that
That's all right.
It's me, so I can't hide from it. So if somebody is in like mid-career, say at this moment in time in a practice, say associate or senior designer, how can they strategically position themselves to become a future practice leader? In fairness, you have touched upon this quite a bit about, getting inquisitive and start asking these questions. And something I have noticed, like when I start talking about this on like LinkedIn and stuff, I have had quite a lot of pushback from like other recruiters, etc. Don't advise people to do this, which I find very strange.
Mhm.
You know, you could be putting them in a difficult situation with their current practice. But how would you kind of frame it from your perspective?
I think we're speaking about the technician to leader transformation again, and about going. The answer always, or typically, lies in the question.
Yeah,
So, yeah, ask if you're a mid-level employee, um, you got to do your every what you're paid for. You got to do that well,
yeah,
and you need to ask for feedback from people. Don't wait till your annual review, but ask for feedback along the way. What am I doing well? What am I not doing well? What should I start doing, stop doing, and continue doing?
yeah,
And be proactive in getting that type of feedback from not just your boss, but your boss's boss and your colleagues. And then I think the other thing is to be interested in other people's role. Okay, what can I
yes,
do to make your job easier? You know,
yeah,
what systems and processes can I from where I sit, I think there's a better way of doing things.
mm,
Don't wait for someone else to implement the change that you think is necessary. Go and speak to someone about it, and don't have that voice in your ear that says, "Well, somebody else would have come up with that. That sounds too simple."
yeah,
There's lots of ideas that people have that they just don't feel empowered enough to put the ideas on the table, or
yeah,
question what's happening at the minute. And yeah, that's the vulnerability piece.
yeah.
There's no such thing as a stupid question. You know,
I think also they stand out. They stand out above everyone else then. You know, I think
this is it.
architects are just, they're very much a sea of copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Like
Yeah,
when whether you're talking about individuals or the practices, once you start getting inquisitive, those people are naturally going to move up the ladder because they are inquisitive and they want to do better, they want to learn, and they want to,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. I think I also think you've got to take control of your own career. You know, we say
yeah,
this to business owners too. Whether you're in employment or you're running your own business, um, you really need to think as an employee as well as a business owner. And quite often, what happens is people will develop a business which can be quite successful in its own right, but it's not delivering what they need. They're having to work too hard, and the relationships suffer, and they don't spend enough time with their kids and whatever.
yeah,
So we encourage, whether it be an employee or a business owner, to do, get the personal vision right first. Where do you
yeah,
want to be in 2 years' time and 3 years' time? And then take the actions that's going to move you towards that. Okay,
yeah,
don't just keep working and hope it's all going to work out. There's an aspect to that in architecture, that people come in on a Monday, they work really hard all week, and then they go home on a Friday and say, "Well, everybody was busy. We've done some great work. It's bound to work out," and it doesn't necessarily work out,
mm,
because it's a three-legged stool. You've got the work, the clients, and the business,
yeah,
and you've got to keep them all happy. But if you just keep the clients happy and get through the work, quite often you'll end up with a business that's not making any profit, or it hasn't got enough work coming in, or
mm.
all the problems that we hear in architecture all the time.
I mean,
Sorry, I was just going to say, there's no shortage of work in architecture. And people are going to
yeah,
say, well, that's not right. It's just spread too thinly. You know,
mm,
architects are not closing down left, right, and centre. People are maybe paying off people here and there, and it's not a good time. But that's the
mm,
time to really stand out and be, um, rest on being a really good business as well as being a good architect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, when I started my company, we went into recession in the UK, but it gives
Yeah,
you that kind of that footing and that drive to go right. And there's always people recruiting, so there has to be architectural work out there for people to be recruiting, no matter what the kind of yeah, the landscape looks like.
yeah. I think in architecture, there's almost a feeling of a right to exist. And
Yes.
if you look at the statistics, 4 out of 5 businesses don't make it through the first 5 years. Okay,
Mm,
why would architecture be any different? That's
Hmm.
one aspect. So you got to work hard to make a business successful,
Yeah.
and to keep it sustainable and growing and developing. Um, but the second thing is, you may have trained to be an architect. You may be working in an architectural office. It doesn't mean to say that you've got to stay as an architect. You're in recruitment.
Yeah.
People can go and use the problem solving skills and the design skills working in some other industry. Working
Yes.
in software architecture. I mean, there are lots of examples now of people using their architectural knowledge and awareness in a
Mm.
different context, where they probably can be more commercially successful.
Have you got some examples of that? Because that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, Evelyn Lee, who is she's the ex-president of the American Institute of Architects, very
Hmm.
active on LinkedIn. She doesn't work as an architect. Okay, she works as a consultant. She worked for, I think it was Slack. She worked for
Oh,
software
right.
company.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and it's been very successful. And she speaks a lot about the opportunities to use architectural knowledge in different
Mm.
ways. She's also very strong on architecture needing to change as an industry,
Yeah.
and not rely on past examples and past ways of thinking.
Mm.
I think I think architects are in some cases stuck in the past a bit,
Yes.
and they need.
Mm.
Yeah, neither you nor I are architects, so we're allowed to say that. But yeah.
So where do you see, if we were to, I would like to understand a little bit more, if we were going to go down the more positive route and look at it in the future, what would that look like for you?
Well, people are still going to build buildings, okay, and people, those buildings have still got to be designed. I look around Melbourne here. I drove across the city tonight, and the place is awash with cranes. There's lots of
Yeah.
building going on. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Architecture, and I think it is happening. We've been helping architects for 7 years, and there are some repetitive conversations that you see on LinkedIn. This is
Yes.
wrong with architecture, and they don't do this, and they should do that. But I think there is a bit of an undercurrent of change and a recognition that architecture doesn't have a right to exist.
Mm.
And you got to run a good business. So in Melbourne in October, there's the first conference around the world that's exclusively about the business of architecture.
Mm.
Archicon, and
Oh,
Nikita,
yes. So, yeah.
that you're speaking to in a couple of weeks. I think
Yeah, it's next
she's
week.
one
I
of the
can't wait.
organisers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
She's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. No, Nikita's great, and Aya Schlachter, who's the other organiser, is also good and prolific on LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
there are people that are trying to change the industry, but it's a tough job, because I know,
Yeah.
speaking to Nikita and Aya and other people in the industry, people are not knocking down our doors to come and work with us. They should be, because
Yeah.
we've got the answers to how to run a successful architectural practice, but
Yeah.
not enough architects proactively come looking for that.
Yeah. It's a
And I think
shame.
the main reason for that is they don't think there is an answer. They listen to their friends who tell them that architecture is hard and it's really difficult and nobody understands this and you can't make money, rather than listening to somebody who sees architectural practice doing really well, making good money, as good as any other industry, and doing great work. So you don't have to compromise your work to
Mm.
create a successful business.
Sure.
It's good business that leads to good architecture, not the other way around.
Mm. And what if somebody's watching this, what are the traits of someone who maybe does need help and can, use your services to kind of flip this around for them?
They've got to be curious, they've got to be a searcher, and they've got to believe there's a better way of doing things.
Mm.
And that's a great starting point. If
Yeah.
and you can reach out, and we're going to be offering. We've been trying a few things, and
Yeah.
to try and to make it easy for architects to access our offering. So we're now going to be doing I can't remember what we call it. I think it's a practice blueprint workshop for an hour and
Right.
a half, $299, I think it is, and money back guarantee. If you don't get value, get your money back. But that's an opportunity to come and speak about your business, get a 90-day action plan with at least 3
Awesome.
key changes that you can make based on that hour-and-a-half conversation.
Yeah.
Because there are some really obvious things that people are not doing, and some obvious numbers that they're not tracking. So it makes it really difficult to run a good business.
Yeah.
Key number that we speak about is a work in progress number. What's the value of all the work you've got signed up that you haven't yet completed?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a key number in any business. That tells you what the future's kind of looking like. But most architects, they'll say, "Oh, we've got 6 jobs, and we're at stage 3 of this job and stage 4 of that job." But what does that turn into in cash? How much of a runway have you got with all of the jobs you haven't started and the jobs you're half finished and the jobs you're almost finished? Value those in terms of yet to be invoiced, add that up and record that number every month. And if that number's dropping away, you've got a problem. If it's increasing, you might need more staff in the future. If it's staying the same, you're maybe okay. But if you don't know that number, how are you making decisions?
Yeah, for sure. I had that thing again. I had a question pop in my head. Oh, what is happening to me this morning? Come on, mind. Come to me. But yeah, I think architects kind of they get bogged down in the day to day, and I get it on my coaching side of, oh, Hayley, I really need to do X, I really need to do Y, but I can't find the time to do this. And it's not like your course is expensive. Like, people should be snapping off your hand for that.
Yeah, the fast track MBA is an hour and a half a week for 6 weeks. It's I think it's 1,900 US. And again, like everything we do, it's 100% money back guarantee. If you come to the end and you say, I didn't get value, but we've probably done 250 people through that. Not one person has asked for their money back. The normal thing that people say is, I just wish I'd done this 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or sometimes 20 years ago.
Oh, no. Yeah. And I love that we've got this kind of network now, you, Nikita, there's a few other people around who are actually shining a light, going, there is another way. You don't need to be doing ridiculous hours. You don't need to be working with clients that you don't even enjoy working with. There is another way.
Absolutely. We've got one client, probably one of the most successful clients, who makes a net profit after all the salaries, including he and his wife both work in the practice. They both get a good salary, and after all of that's paid, they make 30% net profit. Okay.
Awesome.
And they work Monday to Thursday, full days, stop at lunchtime on a Friday. Yeah.
Which is awesome. Which is quality of life.
Quality of life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's not common, but it's running a profitable architectural business is not. It's not a unicorn. It's there to be done if you do it right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And how long have they been working with you?
That was about 4 years they were working, and they were bouncing along the bottom at the beginning, making profit, a little bit profit one month, little loss the next month, and but the guy that ran that practice, he was what I would call an energized searcher. He was like a sponge. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. Well, can we do this slightly different? Can we do that? And all of those. For anybody who hasn't read the Atomic Habits book, it's the guys, David Clear, I think, and he speaks about the aggregation of incremental change. Okay, so it's small changes that add up over time to make a huge change. Yeah, and that's we look back at businesses and say, what have we actually done? What's made the difference? Well, it's the monthly board meeting. It's a set of financials that tell you how you're doing and when things are going off the rails. And it's a decent sales and marketing plan that brings in the leads that you need. Not difficult.
No.
Well, that's wrong. When I say it's not difficult, it's not complex, but you've got to work at it. It's not easy to do that.
Yeah.
But you've got to put the time and effort in, sometimes the investment, to get that outcome that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I keep seeing people kind of come on and then go again and whatever and
Okay.
scan this code, but no one's kind of coming with their questions, which is a little frustrating. But at least
we're scaring them off. We're scaring them off, Hazel.
With saying the word financial or be inquisitive, yes. Like it's everything that they don't know how to do, kind of thing. It's like, okay, scaring them off. I shouldn't say not know how to do. They do know how to do it. It's just applying oneself and getting them out there. I think, doing something a little bit different. But yeah, I look at these figures week in, week out, and there's up to 2,500 people that watch these. But yeah, this is the first
amazing.
week. Yeah, absolutely awesome. But I really wish that they would get engaged and more involved.
It's maybe my accent. It's maybe my accent putting people off. Or my grey hair. I don't know.
Don't be like
but
that.
We're here. No. We're here to help. Come and have a chat and ask some of the obvious questions. And there's no such thing as a stupid question. And if you explain where you're at and what you're trying to achieve and where you're going as a business, we can help. We can chat you through our experience, what we've seen work. We have a very simple methodology for running an architectural practice. And even the financial stuff takes 45 minutes a month to put together. Awesome. That's all you need.
Rather painless.
Yeah,
45
absolutely
minutes.
Painless. Yeah. A little bit of learning in the beginning, a little bit of curiosity, absolutely key. We need to find out what the questions are. What questions do I need to ask as an architectural practice owner to get the best outcome in the quickest time?
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah.
I will be pushing some people your way because, they're just starting out. And I just think it's, perfect timing to actually get everything in place so that they do make a success of their business.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will disclose a little bit of a secret that we've got some plans.
Is this what you were trying to tell me or not tell me before?
Yes, exactly. So at the moment we've got a community on the school platform, the business school for architects, and I think we've got 350 people in there, some really good conversations. But we are going to be launching in the next wee while a paid community where we'll be providing a lot of this training, group coaching, and just bringing people like Nikita in to speak to people and give them access to really well qualified experts, because it's hard for architects to know who do I trust, who do I go and speak to. So we want something that's a bit like the Airbnb, where you've got references on anybody that you're going to be using in the future. So that's we're going to be calling that the boardroom, and it's going to be launched. And we also have a little bit more architectural input. That's the secret bit. A bit more architectural input to the team. So watch this space.
I can't wait for that. What kind of timeline are you looking at?
Probably we would like to be up and going certainly by the ArchiCon conference in Melbourne at the beginning of October. So we're one of the sponsors for that. Because it's really interesting that a year ago we were able to buy 2 domain names. We bought the business school for architects.com and architectsbusinessschool.com.
That was only a year. That's nuts, isn't it?
A year ago. Nuts.
A year ago.
Everybody's been speaking about nobody teaches us about business, and yet nobody had set up a business school for architects. That's what we've now got.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Well, is there anything else that you would like to kind of impart on our viewers?
No, I think that's been good. The hour has gone very quickly. I always enjoy chatting with you. It's we're not in exactly the same space, but time goes very quickly. And I think I keep coming back to the word curious. Come ask some questions.
Yeah.
find some people that know some things that you don't. I learn something new every day. I've just spent the day with my 2 grandchildren, and they taught me a few things today. Like, don't try and eat ice cream in a brand new car. That's not good. That's not
Oh, no. I
good.
can imagine the mess
But
of that.
no, not good, not good. Anyway, yes, it's now 8:05 in Melbourne, so I need to go and have dinner. I think
Oh,
we're
well,
going to have
thank
a
you
Chinese
so
meal,
much.
but it's
Oh,
been really
lovely.
good.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for joining me. I'll end this live stream now. If anyone's got any questions, please put them in the chat. Ray and I are here to answer them. And please get in contact with Ray if you are a business owner or just about to be a business owner and you would like some advice.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Hayley.
Oh, you're so welcome. And see you later, Linkies.